morning, Matt.
Rick, what's going on, man?
Other than technical difficulties getting to here, nothing at all.
Yeah, that was a struggle today.
We struggled a lot. And I say we because I did most of the swearing, but I did find
I just
the
stand
problem.
back and observe.
And it was very technical, you guys. I want you guys to know that we were setting up the podcast equipment, which we do. We set it up ourselves. We're grassroots here. We don't have a crew. We don't have a production crew up in here. And turns out the mic power was turned off because I had someone else clean it up last time, and they're very detailed. And we never turned the mics off because it's not necessary.
How dare you turn off our equipment?
Yeah. What the hell? Anyway. I'm going to get a workout in later, and we'll get all that
everybody's
laughing because Matt says I go 0 to 100, but it's only the small problems. I'm good with the big
I live,
stuff.
My wife, has the same problems. I'm used to it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you're like a feisty redhead.
Your office wife.
Internally.
I really am.
The inside.
My inner feisty redhead comes out when my garage band doesn't open and work correctly.
It's like wife opening a package. It's like literally can't do it. What the hell? Why do they make these so hard?
Oh, some of those packages are ridiculous.
Oh, I mean, kids packaging. I mean, you've opened toys.
It's you have to get a pair of like industrial scissors to get through it.
Yeah, almost cut your finger off.
Yeah, you're lucky not to slit your wrist and die while you're doing it.
Yeah, so I could see you giving the same reaction that my wife.
No, I'm very calm around things like that. Matt, you know that. Speaking of working out, you've been working out more.
This is a setup for a joke.
It's not. It's really not. Okay, fine. I won't talk about you then. I don't want to talk about you. I was going to prop you for working out.
I actually didn't work out all week last week.
You didn't?
No, I was too busy.
Oh, that sounds like a lame excuse.
It is.
The listeners aren't buying it. Sounds like a client.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
And?
All right.
What do you got? What do you got?
I don't have a joke.
It's just massive paranoia now. There's going to be dad jokes flying. What do you have? There was something good there.
Does your wife work out?
Yeah, she does.
Does she?
Mm-hmm.
She just do her own thing?
Yeah, every day.
Wow. So she's pretty type A, huh? She works at home?
Yeah, every day. Yeah,
that's awesome.
When she's got her routine, I don't, she won't listen to me, obviously, but
right.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. I don't know what I'm doing.
You only write programs for 2,000 gyms worldwide.
Yeah, she doesn't care about that.
What do you know? I know you. I'm not listening to you.
Right.
I've seen you. I'm not listening to you.
Right. Yeah. No, not happening.
So does she think you're like super buff?
No.
She doesn't?
I mean, I don't. Does your wife walk around and tell you that you're super buff?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day. It's part of our marriage license.
It's part of the
license agreement.
No, my wife does not.
We signed off on it. Yeah.
I'm not even sure my wife looks at me anymore.
I don't think so either. Like, I don't know. Maybe Andrea is dissatisfied with the way I'm built. I don't know. I should ask her.
You gonna ask her? You should.
Yeah. A small part of me thinks so. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and that's how a dad joke is done. He made me work for it because he knew it was coming. But I think my wife is disappointed in me physically. A small part of me thinks that my wife doesn't like it.
You're just having a bad day. I can't
even get the joke out
I ruined
now.
your dad joke.
All right, listen, let's get down to some business today. Sorry, folks. We haven't sat down together in a while. We had a lot of technical issues. It's a little bit crazy. We're running and gunning over here, selling and getting franchises open, and that's going great.
Yeah, we opened 2 more last week.
Yeah, a couple people for training. So things are going well. Thanks for asking, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. And today we're going to talk about sales and 4 statements, which are strategies or techniques to help you sell, to help you close sales. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I got a buddy in the industry. A lot of people listening will know him. His name's Alex Hormozy. Mm-hmm. He is a beast of a salesperson. I mean, he's probably the best that I've ever met with sales. And a lot of these are ideas that we've used intuitively, but then I've heard him articulate them in a very good way from a teaching standpoint.
Yeah, he has some great content.
Really does. If you want to learn how to sell, I'd highly recommend giving him a follow. He's got some great stuff on sales. And so these are things that we were already using, but then when you hear someone else articulate something that is confirming, that it confirms what you're already doing, makes you feel good. And I thought we would share it to you guys because not everybody follows everybody. And so you maybe haven't heard it, and we'll talk about how to use it specifically in the fitness space.
Yeah.
So Matt, what do we got?
Yeah. So we have several statements here. I want to do the first one, which is the last one we talked about. It's a great one. I often forget about it. I've heard you use it. It is paint the picture.
Yes. Paint the picture is essentially allowing leading your customers to visualize what may be, to visualize the future. And there's 2 ways to look at this. It's the old adage or the age-old question, if you will. What's mightier, the carrot or the stick. And in this case, the carrot is the reward. That's the positive visual image, right? And the stick would be the negative. And if we're honest, it's kind of gross, but the way humans are wired, the stick is actually mightier than the carrot when it comes to habit change. And you and I have read a lot of the same human behavior books, and it's true, right? But the real trick is, okay, if the stick is the mightier of the two, how do you motivate someone negatively without just feeling gross and being a negative person, right? One way to do it is exactly what you're talking about. So when you're sitting down with someone, certainly in the fitness industry, one technique would be to ask them this question. So they're sitting down and they're ready to make this decision on whether or not they're going to change their life with you. We have an expensive service, so there's going to be some financial pain involved with it in a good way. It's going to be worth it, but you got to spend some money and they need it. And they've usually tried other things, or they have an injury they can't work around, and it's personal training, right? So you simply sit down and say, well, let me ask you a question. If everything works out perfectly the way that we've talked about, what does your life look like 1 year from now? And then you just be quiet and let them describe it. And they're going to say things, examples would be like, well, and have them use like present statements like, okay, so my knees don't hurt anymore. I've lost 20 pounds, whatever that is. I feel more confident when I go to the beach for my class reunion or with my neighborhood friends. I'm able to, pick up my grandkids. My back doesn't hurt. I can go to Scotland with my buddies. I'm in Scotland playing 18 holes of golf and I don't hurt afterwards, right? So you're getting to paint this ideal picture of what is it going, if everything works out the way that we've discussed it and you follow my lead, where are you in a year? So they're there, and it has to come from them, right? It's their visualization of where they're going to be, but they're actually speaking these words into reality.
Right.
That's the carrot. The stick then would be, okay, if you do nothing today and we don't move forward together and you continue with the same habits that you have, tell me what you look like in 1 year. Then the statements are, my knees are killing me, right? I'm not able to do any of the activities I want. I've gained another 8 pounds and feel horrible about myself. My back hurts so bad that I've quit golf completely, right? And so, believe it or not, the fear of that reality, which actually, is probably a reality. Like if we're honest, if we look at their trajectory and you get them, remember, this is a closing statement. So you've already taken them through what we call the starting point session. Right. So you've peeled the onion, you've heard about their past successes, past failures, and you've already been talking about it. So when they're actually painting this picture for you, it's going to be pretty accurate. They're going to know that on average in the last 3 years, they've gained 7 to 10 pounds a year. So it's not hard math to be like, well, I'll be 10 pounds heavier than I am now. Right. I won't be able to keep up with my kids or my grandkids. My back will be killing me, blah, blah, blah. So it's a very, very powerful exercise. And, that's why we start with the carrot, right? And then you end with the stick because it's gross. But I think if you can have people realize, listen, if you don't engage with us and you don't make some changes, and this is your best shot to be successful, what's your life going to look like? And it's not a pretty picture.
Sure. So, yeah. It's by the time people pick up the phone and call like our, personal training brand, they're probably at that kind of, it's fearful. Maybe they've been to the doctor, so they're already kind of there. So that's a really like in that setting that will really push somebody over the edge. It's just you can't afford not to do it. Right. So then that's the point. And they get to there.
Yeah. And that's a great way to summarize that. And that's why you have them paint the negative picture, because you don't want to be there.
Right.
This is where you're headed in your own words. Let's not go there. Right. Because the pie in the sky picture is great, but I think there's always some self-doubt because they haven't been able to get there yet. Right. And fitness is an interesting, animal because you're selling future results. It's not like you're buying this water bottle and walking home with it. You're signing up for something that's going to have a 4-letter word in it, which is work. You're going to have to put out money. You're going to have a little bit of time where the results don't come that quick. You're going to make some lifestyle changes. It's not going to be easy, right? And we don't try to pull any punches on what the effort's going to look like. And maybe this is what they're thinking. This happens. The stick is definite because they've already been on that trajectory. So when they paint that negative picture, they know where they're going to end up, and you don't have to sell them on that.
Which is, as most people buy things, especially nowadays, they're looking for a reason not to. So if you put it right in there, like, all right, it doesn't matter. I have to do this now.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's a great point, because how many people, and I'm guilty of this and so are you, like I go on Amazon and a product has 4.8 stars and I'm just looking for the 1 star.
Right.
Just looking for a reason.
Where's that
not
one
to buy.
guy said something, this thing sucks.
Right. It's 5,000 reviews. One guy didn't like it. Let me read what he said. Right. It's like we're all guilty of that at times. So anyway, that's the first technique, and I really like it for you guys. And remember, it's the carrot and the stick is fine. You're not painting the picture. You're not talking, punching down to someone saying, look, if you don't do these things, you're going to be, you're going to have more body fat, your cholesterol is going to be higher, you're not going there. You're letting them do it. And they'll be brutally honest if you have them paint that visualization. So it's very easy then to then say, all right, well, then we don't want to be there. Right. Great. Then let's get started.
Great. All right. This next one, this one's interesting. This one will probably make people think a little bit, but the next one is brace for impact.
Yeah. And that's basically, let's back up. Personal training is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
There are, in the fitness realm, there's regular fitness, there's boutique fitness. Those are sort of these subcategories, and there's even like deeper categories within that. So think on big fitness, on one end of the spectrum, you have a $10 a month gym, right? And we're certainly not going into neighborhoods that, we're not choosing real estate in those areas. We have a very specific archetype that we're going for, and our marketing speaks to the right person, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like, it's an expensive service. And so bracing for impact would be telling someone before you give them the price that it's expensive, right? Which might sound counterintuitive, but keep in mind, you're already building value. So this doesn't mean you don't build value. And let me give you, maybe if I just give an example, it will help, because it's like, well, how would you use that? So I was in my neighborhood a while back, and I ran into a guy that I know, and he's a great guy. And I know that he had been between gigs, right, for a minute. And he had even mentioned, like, oh, yeah, well, I'm not buying that right now, like, as a joke. And this was in passing in the neighborhood. So I bumped into him, or he actually called me, and he said, hey, man, look, I'd like to go to your gym. What is it that you guys do? And, he's like, he's got some knee pains, had some cervical fusions. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's not in a good place. And so I knew from our conversations, right, that he was going to be a bit more price sensitive. So I said, well, listen, this is what we do. It's all personal training. So we are probably the only game in town that can work around your neck fusion and back problems and your sore knees and all that. Like, we're the right place for you, but it's expensive. Like, I need to warn you ahead of time. It's not a cheap service. It's personal training.
Right.
And so then the next question will be like, okay, well, how expensive is it?
What is it, man?
Right. Because, and remember, like, this is an example of someone who I had a little bit of previous knowledge of maybe where he was.
Sure.
But if we put the facilities in the right location and we speak with our marketing to the right avatar, expensive is a relative term. Mm-hmm. If somebody buys a Ferrari, but they make, $10 million a year, it's no more expensive than someone who makes, $75,000 a year buying a used Honda Accord, right? It's the same percentage of income. So expensive is a relative term. But I think by saying, you know what, it's pretty expensive, you're bracing for impact for the person that's going to be like, ooh, that's a little steep. But you can also unit price it against personal training in your market. Like, It's expensive, but listen, personal training in our market's, $80 to $100. Like, we can get you at, $30 or less, right? But it's still not an inexpensive service, right? And they're like, yeah, okay, but I need it. So I think it takes some of the sting out of the price when you're not like hoping that they're not going to wince, or when you give them this $300 a month price point, they're not going to be like, oh God, because their pricing anchor is $9, or maybe it's a $99 boot camp or something.
Right. They don't actually know, right? They're coming in, bracing for impact kind of thing, right?
So you're telling them, hey, it's going to be expensive. And for a lot of people, there's maybe even a little bit of ego around that. Like, most of our customer avatars, 45, 65, they have money, right? We're putting them in those areas. We're speaking to them with our marketing. And if you tell that person, hey, tell me what you do, and you explain it, and you're like, listen, it's pretty expensive. Like, that's a relative term. So sometimes when you say, yeah, it's, around $30 a session, depending on how many times you come in. And so they do the math, and they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, 3 times a week would be great. So you're looking at $350, $360. They'll go, oh, that's not bad.
Right.
Because in their mind, and to our customer avatar, expensive means something maybe totally different than it does. And you guys have to keep that in mind. Some of the people that are going to be selling for you, or if you're in the seat, in our seat of what we call general manager or director of training, and you think it's expensive because maybe you're not in the same socioeconomic situation as the customers that you're selling to. It's kind of what we talked about before. Don't sell out of your own wallet, right? So when you say, hey, it's expensive, they're like, oh gosh, and they're thinking, well, what's expensive?
Right.
I'm living in a $2 million home, and then so they're bracing for impact, and you say, it's $350 a month, and they go, oh, okay, well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Or if they do think it's expensive, at least they're not like, oh my gosh. They're like, okay, well, yeah, man, that's a little bit pricey, but and then you go back to the visualization and the things we just talked about to push them over the line. But I like it. I think it takes some of the sting out of it. And the situation I used with this guy was like, listen, man, it's not cheap. Because I knew, again, he's a friend of mine. I knew his situation, employment wise. And he was like, okay, cool. But at least he knew, right?
Yeah, it diffuses the situation. It gets people off of automatically that price. Then it turns into more, it's actually a deal. It's affordable.
Right.
Which at the end of the day, right?
It's just flipping the script.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sales at the end of the day, you guys, I hate to say it, but sales is about building value and it's gamesmanship. The words that you use, how you use those words, your body language, your conviction, all those things are uber important. And so all that stuff has to be baked into these few simple statements.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. Next one. This is going to be worded a couple different ways. Would you be opposed to, or would it be crazy?
Yeah. And this is, again, I stole this one from Mosey. I've never actually used this one. I think it's a great idea. I probably have intuitively, but I didn't label it.
Sure.
But this is actually allowing someone to say no to get a yes, which is a safe way to do it. So let's say that we're in pre-sales and someone's like, wow, this sounds great. I'll check back with you when you get closer to opening because we might be pre-selling 10 weeks out, right? Well, a great way to get them to move now would be to say, well, let me ask you this. We only have 100 spots available. I think we're a perfect fit. I'd love to have you in the gym and people like you. We would love to build our gym with people like you. I mean, you're awesome. So would you be opposed to me going ahead and getting your credit card today and getting you to sign our agreement so that we can hold your spot? And if they can say, no, I wouldn't be opposed to that. It's different than saying, do you want to sign up today? Which is what most people do that are, well, exactly. So it's such a binary answer, right? And would you be opposed to is a softer binary question, right? Where it's like, well, would you be opposed to this? Or we're like, listen, let me ask you this. Would it be crazy to ask you to go ahead and sign up today so that I can hold your spot for later?
Right.
And they're like, no, that sounds good. I appreciate that, right? It turns into a very friendly way to say, well, do you want to sign up today so that you don't lose your spot? It's like, well, I mean, I'll come back later. I mean, it's the same but so different, right?
Yep.
So it's getting a no instead of a yes. So it's their way of safely saying yes by saying no. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Nice. All right. Last one. You use this one all the time. You're like a master of this one. Is that fair or fair enough?
Yeah. Fair enough is my favorite. So same thing. Let's say we're in pre-sale and you say to someone, what do you do? And you're like, well, we do personal training. So it's very specific. How much does it cost? It depends. Let's talk about your goals for a minute. So you get them to dump on you a little bit, right? They're going to be less likely to repeat that exhausting emotional process with other gyms. So you get them to tell you everything and then the same thing pops up where they've told you all their goals and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, perfect. We're built for this. Perfect match. I'd love to have you in my gym. Listen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you the agreement. I only have 100 spots available. I'm going to collect your credit card now. I'm going to send you the agreement. I'm going to need you to pick 2 or 3 days a week. We talked about it. I think 3 is ideal, right? Sign that, get it back to me because I want to be able to hold your spot. If you don't, though, within 24 hours, I'm going to have to let it loose. So, make sure you sign it, get it back to me. Fair enough? They're like, yes.
Yes.
So you're not saying, do you want to join? Yes or no. You're saying, is it fair? And so again, it's like a soft yes, but it's a yes at the end of the day. So same thing. You're standing at your tent, right? Somebody walks by and you're like, wow, I like those workout shoes. You must like to work out. And they're like, yeah, I do. It's like, where do you work out? Blah, blah, blah. And you would get through the whole song and dance. Like, what do you guys do? Oh, we do personal training. Oh, really? Cool. Yeah. Oh, I have a friend that used to have a trainer. You go through the whole song and dance. And you go, well, let's do this. Look, we only have 100 spots available. Same thing, right? Let me get your information down. I need to get your credit card so I can hold your spot. It's not a ironclad guarantee, but I'd love to have you in our gym, in 30 days from now. And we can get you on the app and start getting you some training and stuff. Meanwhile, fair enough?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's like the friendliest way to ask for a yes, I think. So what do you think?
No, those are great. I mean, the biggest thing I see people struggle with is maybe like people are very sales-averse. They don't want to do it, So we cover a lot of those things, like don't sell from your own wallet. But the biggest thing is like, you're not selling anything bad for them. You're actually selling something. You're not selling them drugs. You're just selling them like a literal better life if they do these things.
Yeah, heaven forbid that you move them in the right direction so that they can change their life.
Right.
Well, and I think, to your point, people are scared of sales because they don't want to hear a no. And, there's famous sales scripts and books and stories about like you have to go out and get give me your 50 no's today, because there's a ratio, and getting reps makes you better. And, getting no's is part of the sales process, so much so that some companies will make you get a certain amount of no's a day, knowing that, there's going to be some yeses baked in there. And so it's just a different way to, say I need this many yeses a day. So I think these 4 techniques that we talked about, though, should make someone who's sales adverse and nervous. It gives you 4 tools in your toolbox to in a friendlier way, it will feel better to you to ask for the sale.
Yes,
because you're
absolutely.
asking for it in a nicer way, and you're getting a yes without a binary answer, yes or no, right?
Yeah.
It is, but it's a softer way to go about it. So I hope for anyone that's listening that is sales adverse, and certainly any of our franchisees or those coming down the pipe, these are just really great ways to get yeses and lessen the blow of a no for either you or your salesperson. Either way, it takes some of the fear out of it.
That's great. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, we got our technical stuff worked out. My dad joke. Did you get the joke, or was it too complicated?
I feel like I won because I stopped your dad joke.
You did. You really messed it up. My timing was all off.
His whole day's.
What we ought to do is just start out with one, knowing that we're going to have a dad joke, and then not trying to.
Were you trying to set me up there?
Well, I did. I had to work at it. It still didn't work. So if it's coming, it's not as much fun. So maybe we just admit that we're going to tell one.
We're just going to sit here,
and then we just tell them.
Okay.
Well, let's just do one. You've seen the videos where they do dad jokes back and forth. Whoever laughs first loses.
Yeah, I was actually going to try to do one today, but then you stumbled through yours, so that was kind of off.
Thanks. You blew my I'm not going where you went. That was horrible. Right? Well, listen, guys, I hope that helps with sales. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We hope to see you somewhere at a conference or at a franchise event, or, I don't know. Come by, say hello, whatever. Enjoy the podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bye.